The core issues here are how the West has treated Russia. Russia has historically wanted to be a part of the West. Even Vladimir Putin wanted to be a part of the West. The West has not treated Russia well. And, in the aftermath of the Cold War, the decade of the 90s is some of the worst in modern Russian history. Any Russian who lived through it knows what I'm talking about. Most Westerners don't understand that. We throw around terms like democracy as if we were really trying to bring a genuine liberal democracy. But democracy in Russia meant something different than it meant in the West. Democracy in Russia meant we want to control the Russian government, that we want to influence. We want to be the shot callers, as opposed to what genuine democracy is, which is representing the will of the people through an electoral process. The other thing was, we talk about the economy, free market. There was no free market in Russia. The Russian economy was stolen by the oligarchs, who took state-owned properties and then through hook and lying and cheating and stealing, acquired controlling interests in these, and then used it to enrich themselves, sending billions, if not trillions, of dollars overseas, to hide out. So Russia's desire to be part of the West has come with a heavy price, because the West hasn't treated Russia well. But even when Vladimir Putin first came in, he said, "I'd like to be part of the West, but I'm not going to play by your rules. I'm not going to be Boris Yeltsin. I'm not going to come to my knees and beg for everything. Russia is a power, a real power, a great power, and Russia needs to be treated as such." And the West was unable to accept this. There's an organization here in the United States called RAND. It's a think tank. And even though it's not part of the US government, understand this, that major RAND studies don't happen because some RAND analyst woke up in the morning and went, "I think I want to write a study about how we should deal with Russia." It's because somebody in the government directs them to write the study in support of an overall policy debate. RAND has published study after study after study, which has stated that Ukraine is essential for the destabilization of Russia. That if the United States wants to destabilize Russia, Ukraine is the #1 place to do it. And we need to work with the Ukrainians for the goal and objective of creating a conflict that sucks Russia in and allows us to destroy Russia through sanctions, humiliate their military, weaken them politically, to achieve what? Regime change. The policy of the United States of America towards Russia is regime change. We want Vladimir Putin gone. We view Vladimir Putin as the greatest threat to American strategic objectives when it comes to Russia. We don't want a strong Russia. We don't want a powerful Russia. We don't want a Russia that is an equal. We want a weak Russia that abides by whatever we dictate, that we use Russia to then as leverage against China. We don't want Russia and China to become close. This is our strategic objective. And Ukraine has always been identified as a battleground between the West and Russia. Now somebody will say, "Well, geez, it sounds like the West is winning." No, even though there's a war going on, understand this: the war is being done based upon a timeline not of Rand Corporation or the United States of America is making, but of Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin and the Russian government and the Russian power structures long ago broke the code. They knew what America's strategy was. They knew that Ukraine was the battlefield. So what they've done is they've flipped the coin. They've gone in a way not designed to weaken them, being Russia, but to weaken NATO, weaken the European security framework. Russia is creating a new reality. Not only that, prior to this, Russia reached out to China and created a formal relationship with China that is something the West never wanted. The West's goals were to divide Russia and China, but Russia and China are coming together with this formal structure. It's better than an alliance, we're told. So, but it's real. I mean, I'm laughing at it just because of the terming, but it's real. It's genuine cooperation designed to fundamentally change the world away from the rules-based international order to a law-based multipolar world where Russia and China, as you said, work together to create this trans-Eurasian economic union that stretches from Europe all the way through Central Asia, down to South Asia, through China, including Russia, the largest economic cooperation organization in world history. And if this thing, and it's real, it exists today, and if it ever reaches its true potential, it will literally push out the United States and Europe as the dominant economic forces in the world. So Russia has turned the page. They're playing off of a Russian playbook right now, not the Rand Corporation United States playbook. It's a gamble. I mean, there's no guarantee that what Russia is doing is going to work. The one thing we do know is that the Russian strategy is going to cause a lot of pain for the Russian people and for the West. These economic sanctions are a two-bladed sword. They cut both ways. But I will say this, the Russian government didn't come into this blind. This isn't a mistake. This isn't an accident. They have deliberately taken this course of action, knowing full well that the West was to impose exactly the sanctions that they imposed, exactly the outcome that's coming. Everything has been predicted. You know, there's an old saying, no plan survives initial contact with the enemy. So the Russians have a plan. Whether this plan survives, economic reality, we have yet to see. And another one is the enemy always gets a vote, meaning that you may think you know what's going on, but the other side gets to say something too. So we don't know how this is going to play out. But what we can say is that it's playing out in accordance with the will of the Russian government. They have chosen this path. This is the path they want to go down, and they have a grand strategic vision. The West doesn't. I don't believe the West actually thought that Russia was going to invade. I think this economic sanctions was a bunch of bluff. Yes, they had a plan, but they weren't really prepared for this. And we see that by how their economies have reacted horribly. And they don't know. I mean, they don't have a plan B. Where is Europe going to get its natural gas if Russia shuts off the pipeline? Which, by the way, Russia hasn't. Russia hasn't shut off any pipeline. They're still flowing gas, and yet the European economy is tanking. Look, it's a messy situation, but I think we're looking at Russia making a strategic decision, and you've heard Sergei Lavrov say this, that never again will it allow itself to be held hostage to the vagaries of Western politics. And that means that the Russian economy cannot be so closely linked with the West that the West believes it has leverage over Russian policymaking.